Hey, I'm Lou. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Evrloot. I'm going to tell you more about it in a second. I hope you like the title of my talk, how blockchain gaming can be more than a facade to raise more money. I clickbaited you a little bit. I catfished you. Maybe you expected like a couple of nice slides and really going into the topic, but I think it is a problem, and I want to talk about it a little bit. But I actually want to showcase you our game the most, because that's what I'm proudest the most, and that's ultimately what I believe can kind of get over this problem that a lot of Web3 gaming has, and it's kind of hype building and then not actually delivering. And what we are doing is a lot of delivering, maybe a little bit too little hype building, but we're trying. So what you see here, for example, is a dashboard that I built for something that we released yesterday. So we released a pretty cool feature in our game that we call the auction book. So we have a big item economy. And since yesterday, people can create buy and sell orders. And what you see here is a live updating dashboard where you can see what has been traded. This is live, by the way, and kind of who did it. And when something new comes in, it's gonna auto update. Because we ultimately believe that this type of activity kind of is the best indicator if a game is alive. Like if your players actually care about it, and we are doing a good job at offering syncs, at offering the right incentives, then something like a marketplace is gonna thrive, hopefully. So kind of building and being transparent about kind of what you do and showcasing, hey, there's action going on is kind of what we're all about. So let's go into the game a little bit. So what we have built is a dark fantasy style RPG game. It's fully browser compatible, so no need to download any launcher, no need to get Epic or Steam, whatever. No need to download the new Treasure launcher if anybody has seen that. I think that's an awful idea. And what you can do is we have a couple of different gameplay loops. One is completely asynchronous, so you can send your character on missions. We introduced a completely free-to-play gameplay loop as well, where you can take these cool characters that you see here that are kind of faceless on purpose. You can open packs with them, for example. So I think my internet should still be working, hopefully. I think it's down. Let's see. But what we kind of built everything around is these characters. So what you see here is what we call souls. And the cool thing about them is that it's not just a JPEG, kind of the meme everybody knows about of a character living somewhere on a server. It's an NFT that can own multiple NFTs themselves and can have them equipped. So for example, this ring, which is like a pretty exclusive ring that I got early on, can be de-equipped, put into my inventory. I can put it on chain, and then this character is actually not going to display it anymore, and kind of has a new state. What our characters also are is kind of a safe game within our game. So what you see, for example, in the different tabs is the professions that my character has. So my character is pretty good at logging, and that experience is actually being written on chain. It has a couple of different recipes it learned, et cetera, et cetera. But like I said already, kind of the main objective that we're trying to achieve in our game is build an economy that the players enjoy playing in. So we have a bartering kind of mechanism that you can see here, where players can offer multiple different types of items. For example, this person offered 4 different recipes, and they can either put it up for a direct buyout price, or I could go there and place a bid and put some items of mine up for trade, and then that person could decide to basically take it. Additionally, what I just showed is we released this order book mechanism. We call it the auction house, where you're able to go to a specific resource. So instead of having to be forced to find the resource on the marketplace and having to hope that somebody offers what you need, you can go in here and can actually see how many are selling, how many are buying, can kind of decide what you think is the right price for it, also with some nice graphs to it. And people like it. I mean, you see it kind of looking at the activity here. People are using it. For us, it's also a nice way to kind of get a feel on what resources are the most sought after at the moment, which ones should we maybe give more love towards. Very nice indicator for us to kind of understand where our game is moving. I think another big aspect that I think goes into kind of the title that I put up here as well, like this facade of raising more money, is that we really believe as Evrloot that indie gaming is the way to go, especially on blockchain. I mean, we love Mythical being here, and we do think that Mythical is going to attract a lot of players. But ultimately, we are big believers in kind of fostering the community within. So we've been here since almost 3 years now. We were at the first Decoded back all the way in Berlin. And looking at it today, there are not really a lot of teams left from back of those days. Like we met, for example, Peen the first time there. We were super excited. And I mean, Remark was maybe around, Munsama, a couple of other projects. But if you look around today, there's very little indie, very little homegrown projects that are still left in Polkadot. And we kind of want to push that narrative again of, hey guys, it is important to foster your own community. It is important to try to keep that community alive and also support them. And that's why we're, for example, super happy to work together with Angie, who kind of shares that vision with us and kind of understands, hey, we need to have this safe space where these projects can grow. And one example here is that, I mean, I saw the kind of announcement of Mythical, for example, with the FIFA game. I could imagine that it probably costs millions of dollars. And I think it's probably going to be a pretty cool game. I played soccer myself for 13 years, so I'm probably going to check it out. But kind of the ability that we have as a smaller studio is to build something pretty quickly, iterate over it a lot, and kind of release it into a community that is very engaged and helps us improve the product incrementally. So one example is this local build that I'm sharing here, where we took this old gameplay loop we had where you sent your character into a dungeon on its own and fought against basically a static room dungeon, and we kind of evolved it from there. So what we did is, I can maybe show the old version. So what you were able to do before is, you took your character. I have this one, for example, now. Let me take one of these. You go in there. You can take some potions, for example. Okay, this doesn't have energy. You take it into a dungeon, and you fight against monsters. This one should be fine. And what we did now with this new gameplay loop is kind of build on top of it. So we had this vision right at the beginning when we started building this whole dungeon system. But what we kind of realized... Yeah, I think my internet is down. Okay, let's try to see if the other thing works, because this is local. What we tried to do is, we still tried to release pretty early on, knowing that it's not at a stage that we wanted yet, but doing it on purpose so we can get feedback from the community and then evolve it together with them. So what we have nowadays is, and that's going to release in a couple of weeks, have a system where you don't just take this one character, but you take a group of those characters. You can kind of pick and choose who you want to have in your squad. We introduced a whole passive system where all of the different characters and the different classes have different abilities. And you can kind of pick them together, save it, put it as your active group, and then go together into the dungeon, kind of taking this approach of building an MVP first, and then, like I said, iterating on top of it, which I think is pretty tough for an enterprise level kind of operation. And then the cool thing about this as well, which I wanted to showcase as well, so now you can go from room to room, you can fight enemies, you're going to have this battler where within, excuse the background still showing, you can kind of see them fighting against each other. And the cool thing about this, for example, is that while we only had static dungeons until now, we kind of built this whole new dungeon system now where we have all of these different types of rooms that are like a template, and then we can generate these different types of dungeons. You can even edit the different types of rooms, and we can have like a way more alive and interesting experience for the players ultimately. So coming back kind of to, I guess, the title of the talk, we ultimately believe that what you should do and what you should kind of thrive to do, especially in kind of the blockchain space, is build something cool, try to bring it to market, bring it to the community, because it's such a huge opportunity within crypto as well, like Web3 as a whole. We have so many cool communities. We have so many active users that are not just anonymous, but are actually willing to go to your Discord or willing to go to your Telegram. And use these people to build your product and improve it. And then, hopefully build something great that even more people are excited to use. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'm not sure. Yeah, sure.
The dungeon generation feature, are those all procedurally generated, or are those like you're moving the squares around and building your own dungeon?
Yeah, now it is. That's the feature that we built basically. Before we had like a static dungeon, and now it's going to be procedurally generated.
So if you get one of those dungeons generated,
yeah,
is that written on chain somewhere? Does that save? Can you replay or share that dungeon with others?
We're still in the development phase, but that's definitely something that we consider. Like we try to do like a hybrid model. We do have a lot of stuff on chain. So for example, the characters, all the resources, all of this is on chain. If you send your character on a mission, it's gonna fetch an RNG from like an Oracle, et cetera, et cetera. But for example, a lot of these real-time mechanisms that you see here, we purposely don't put on chain because, I mean, maybe on other chains it's possible, but at least on Polkadot with the block time that we have, we couldn't put every single fight on chain and kind of expect the player to still enjoy themselves because they would have to wait, I don't know, 6 to 10 seconds every time, like sending a transaction. So what we do for these, for example, is that you sign a transaction at the beginning, and then we mint the rewards at the end for you. But we actually thought about, for example, putting the room generation on chain as an example because it's quite easily doable and it's not something that the user needs to get immediately. But for us, always the priority is, and I think that's where we are going more into the Web 2 kind of space, that the UX needs to be good. Like the game needs to feel smooth. It needs to be fun. And if the blockchain is kind of hindering you from doing that, then like we have a problem. Then we need to try to fix that. Yeah. Yeah.
Just talk about any community guidance that was surprising to you or any kind of change in course because of what the community wanted?
Yeah, a change in course. I think one thing that I found quite surprising, and I think a lot of influencers a lot of times talk about this kind of experience where you read 100 positive things and then you read a negative thing and you kind of take it very personal. We did have like a couple of community members that at some point were huge fans, and then they, for example, kind of didn't like our approach of really focusing on the fun side of things. They wanted us to drive up the value of resources. They wanted us to drive up the value of characters, for example, I don't want to badmouth them, but for them to basically accrue some more value. And we were like pretty open and direct in, hey, this is not about trying to make you the most amount of money. We're trying to build a cool game here that attracts more users. And we did get like some negative feedback from a couple of people here and there. I think that was something quite surprising for us. Like in our head, thinking that this is, of course, they are going to agree with us trying to build the best possible game, but them actually responding with, hey, no, I would like it more if these resources would be worth $100. So I think that was one thing. And then, I mean, we have a couple of bug bounty channels and a couple of suggestion channels. And I think the good thing about our approach is that we're very transparent with the community as well. So it never really goes too far before we get the first loop of feedback. So it's not like we release something and the players are completely in the blue about it and can be super pissed because we're communicating so much about it beforehand and we're asking them for feedback that we, at least up until now, we didn't have the point of like getting feedback that is super horrible and us having to change paths. Yeah, cool. If that's it, then thank you for listening. If you're interested, hit us up. We can always we always appreciate new faces, new players. So yeah, thank you.